Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Today in science, we did kind of a game to learn the next piece of content that we're covering. And so instead of videotaping that, I thought I'd send you a video so we can kind of explain or you understand what we did. First of all, we watched a video of really close calls, which is kind of fun and exciting. So I'll share that link and you guys can watch that if you'd like. But this is the main driving question. We're now in investigation three, part two. And so since we know about kinetic energy now, we're now trying to see what happens if we change an object's speed. How does that affect kinetic energy? Or what happens if we change the object's mass? How does that affect kinetic energy? So today we played a game called Stop or Crash. And so everybody got these 9 different cards. So they came in a little packet like this, and it was like you were playing Candyland or something like that. So everybody had them face down like this, and partners would take turns reading a scenario on each one. Okay, so I'll show you an example of a scenario. Let's see. Here's an example of one. You are driving your sports car at 44 meters per second, which is like 100 miles an hour. That's bad. That's too fast. You're trying to get to a concert on time, which is why you're rushing. You can't brake, and so you lose control of your car's 3,600 kilojoules. That's kilojoules of kinetic energy. So we introduced joules as a new concept. The joule is a unit that we use to describe how much kinetic energy something has. If you remember our marble down the ramp, the only thing we could really measure was how far did the block go. So we measured a distance and it told us what had more kinetic energy, but we couldn't actually say how much kinetic energy it had. So a joule measures kinetic energy. A kilojoule, 1,000 joules, a kilojoule is 1,000 joules. So everybody got these 9 cards that look kind of like this, that talked about speed, that talked about the mass of different size sports cars, and talked about how much kinetic energy they had. Okay, let's see. We played a game so they would uh, have different amounts, but let me show you. Here is the uh, piece of paper that they filled out as they were going through this. I will link this as well, so you can print it off and fill it out the best you can. And I should also let you know that as you're doing this, I will share the answers with you in just a second, so you can compare at home with yourself too. So first of all, whenever we looked at um, one of those examples, so something like this. No, card number 1 says you're driving a sports car. Well, the sports car is listed as it's over here. So sports car is everything down here. The sports car is also considered to be one, it's the mass of one car. So this is also the sports car in this first row, and this is the sports car in this first row and this first row. An SUV is like 3 times as large, 3 times the mass of a sports car. So this entire section over here is the SUV, but the SUV is also the middle row here and the middle row here and the middle row here because it's 3 times the mass. And then finally we had the semi. So this entire section was a semi, which is like 37 times the amount of mass of a sports car. So a semi is also the bottom row of each one of these. So every time we looked at one of these, we could actually fill in the data in 2 different spots. So in this case, it was going 44 miles or meters per second, and we're driving a sports car. So here's the sports car section going 44 meters per second. The data that I get there, I would put in this bottom row, and which is, how many joules was that? 3,600 kilojoules. So I would write 3,600 right there. And then also I would go over here and find where else am I going 44 meters per second? It's this whole section. And I'm talking about the sports car, so I would put it here. So my 3,600 would go there as well. 3,600 there and 3,600 there. That's how we would end up filling this out. So I'm going to have you do the same thing. I'm going to give you, um, I'm going to give you all of these instead of as little index cards. You're going to get them as one sheet so you can read through those 9 scenarios. And then I'm also going to give you this sheet. I'll link that in this Google form. And then finally, I want to give you the answers so that you can check this. So my answers look something kind of like that. I've got a screenshot or an image that I'll also share there. But again, don't look at that until you've filled this out. What you're supposed to be finding are some patterns. So as this all gets filled out, this left-hand side has the speed the same every time, which means that's the variable we're controlling, but we're seeing how the different mass of each of those cars creates a change. On the right-hand side, we're keeping the mass the same, but we're seeing what kind of patterns with the different speeds that we're using and how that changes the amount of kinetic energy. That's about it. God's blessings on your day.